We hear this as a recurring theme, this organizational notion of MLOps, and I know Demetrius has published some great blog posts that everyone should check out about why MLOps is really an organizational problem. And I think it's so fascinating to get your perspective, as you said, because you've really, I guess you could call it, matured through the entire process of the, I guess what we would call the data science career ladder, and now you're at this interesting executive position at an interesting moment where data science is really crossing the chasm and is starting to become a part of business models a little bit more aggressively.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I think for so long you had sort of your typical organizational setup was to have the standard organization, and then data science comes along in some kind of center of excellence or some kind of place where data science, data engineering teams are trying to come up with proof of concept, something to prove the value to the business to then get the funding to take that to the next level. And you get with that, you get a certain amount of putting particularly data scientists on some kind of podium, on some kind of pedestal of inflating the egos a little bit, but also needing to do that to build that momentum and to get that investment from the rest of the business. What I've seen is going through that stage, once you've made that investment, you've got a data science and engineering team on board, you've done those proof of concepts, you've taken some of those proof of concepts, put them into pilots, you've put them into production, you've demonstrated that there's value for the business. So you've already gone through that. You've got that sort of conveyor belt built and running, and you can bring on new use cases, tackle new business problems, and you've got a way of solving that. Then what you see quite a lot is that then the challenges, they shift away from, as we say, from technology as the problem, a lot more into how do you organize that? How do you get data science as an integral part of the organization, rather than just some kind of supplementary function that is, adding minimal value? I mean, you often see like the stats of what 80% of I don't even know. I mean, it's,
models don't make it into production.
80+ models don't make it into production. Even the models that would have value if they were made into production. I mean, there's such a challenge of overcoming that. So I think that the organizational challenges come from how do you embed AI as a core part of the organization. What I've seen in my experience, so the company I was working at until recently, Quby, we've really started on having data science. Those first data science models were something like they were core product features. They weren't focusing on sort of how do we assist the CFO in making predictions for churn for the coming 6 months. They were really focusing on taking data that was coming from a smart thermostat product, running machine learning algorithms on that, and then offering those services back to those end users. So then you have to, in that essence, you have to get data scientists in particular very close and embedded within those product teams. So over time, we made that shift from sort of a data science sort of innovation center, sort of center of excellence, into a more of a data science and engineering agile team, sort of one sort of team with a product owner, into then ultimately taking individual or typically a couple of data scientists plus a data engineer and distributing them between different product teams. So you're getting those data scientists as close as possible to those business problems, and you've got the engineering support there to make sure that you can tackle those challenges. That's a tricky shift to make from an organizational perspective. You have to have a certain level of maturity across the organization. This is not only at the sort of executive level. For sure you have to have the buy-in of the CEO. You need to have the COO, the CTO, whoever is going to support that, understanding what AI is and why AI is different than software development. But you have to have the developers themselves, software developers across the business, understanding like, okay, if we're running some machine learning code in this next product, it could change. If it gets retrained automatically on new data, the results that we're going to offer could be new. You need to have product management. They need to understand the trade-offs between things like precision and recall and what that means for the kind of service that they're offering. As an example from Quby, we were looking at services of using a thermostat data within a home to identify when people were present at home, to alert them whether they should turn the heating off or not. You want to be pretty accurate when you're making a recommendation there, and you'd prefer to have less recall, so less coverage in the population of your whole user base. But when you are making a recommendation, you want to be as certain as you can that that's a true that you're true. You don't want to be having other things coming in there. So you need to have a lot of education across the whole product team of how you need to change things to have AI and machine learning based in that product.